Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity to speak again. As Steve said, I'm representing Toyota Motor Europe. I'm based in Belgium now, but we represent, in the terms of manufacturing plants, the dots on the map there. So 2 plants in the UK, one in Chester, one in Burnaston near Derby, one in northern France near Valenciennes, one in Portugal making commercial vehicles, very, very small, but nonetheless still there making cars, commercial vehicles, should I say. Also a plant with a joint venture in Czech Republic with Peugeot Citroën, 2 plants making transmission and engines in Poland, and then a vehicle plant in Turkey and another one in St. Petersburg. So quite a range of different cultures, quite a range of experiences, as you can imagine. So I was asked today to talk about how do we share our information into factory learning. So I thought, well, maybe we should start off in the same way that we would do normally in a factory. So what's our normal start of the day in the Toyota way? So the first thing, we'd have a group meeting. Steve's just mentioned some of it there, you know, the fire exits are here or whatever. So general information during the day, but also we'd share some key points of the day and some news items. So actually quite an interesting news item came up yesterday. There was the QS World University Ranking was announced. And the global table of universities, in the top 20, there were 6 UK universities. And I'm pleased to announce that Cambridge was number 3 in the world on that. And indeed, Imperial was number 5. And I don't think Nancy's here today, or I haven't seen her, but Yale's only at number 8, so never mind. So there would be that type of activity will be going on, a little bit of sharing of information. But also we'll be listening to members' concerns. So typically, yeah, did you all have a good night last night? Yes, yeah, very good. Steve, did you manage to do your work okay? No. So there's a problem. He's going to be focusing on something else. He's not going to be making good quality activity today because he's thinking somewhere else. And Peter, how did your travelling go? Okay? Excellent. Except?
This is the embarrassing bit where I followed somebody into the housing station.
So this is the sort of thing, this is a typical way that we would start the day. Next thing is we'll do some warming up exercises. So I hope you're all ready. Oh, okay. A few worried faces there, actually, but we're not in a factory today, so we won't do that. But what we will do, a little bit of mental exercise for you today, being as we're with more academic brains. So what I want to do to you today is to introduce 2 words, and some of you may know these words, and I'll try to educate you in the use of those words as Toyota uses them at least. So both words are going to be very synonymous with the Toyota production system. And why have I chosen that? Is the Toyota production system abhors waste of any kind. Basically, we even categorise that waste by 7 different types of waste, and we don't like it. It might be a waste of my time, it might be the waste of money and resources, it could be all sorts of waste. So actually, very, very coherent discussion with what we're planning to do with sustainability. Actually, we want good resource efficiency. And it's based upon standardisation and Kaizen, and those are the main foundations that we're looking for. So those are the 2 words. No reaction. Maybe one person can answer at least. Ritsuko can answer that, what those words are. Yeah? Yeah, good. Okay, the first one is Kaizen, and the second one is Yokaten. So I'll try to explain and define to you what those words actually mean. So Kaizen is actually an improvement, or in the dictionary it even says a change for the better. Interesting point, it doesn't mention the word continuous. Continuous has come in common thinking with the association that Toyota has with the word Kaizen. I'm not sure that's quite correct, but is that reasonable? Yeah, okay. So in our concept, that Kaizen can only be really made when you have a knowledge both of the background and have a good understanding of the process detail. You can't make a decision on how to change something if you don't really know that information. And also you need to know what the current situation is. And what is the current situation? You can only tell by actually going to the place where that process is worked to understand how it's operating. And more importantly, talk to the people who are operating that process on a daily basis. They're the experts. The engineers are not the experts in this case. It can only really be performed effectively when you have a standardized process. You need the base of a standardized process to know whether you're making a change in the right direction. You might make a change, and actually, if you don't have a control, you've got no idea whether the result is going to be repeatable or not. And you have to be prepared to take controlled risk through controlled change. And the emphasis is on the word control there, so that you know what you're anticipating and hopefully what you're going to receive as a result. The second word is the word Yokaten. And actually, the definition in the diary is a little bit stranger in this area. It says to open up, to deploy, or lateral development across everywhere. So these are some words that we can use for it. But what we're using the words are about sharing, how to share the information that we are gaining in various bits of the company around the other similar facilities, or indeed even wider in the organisation. So to perform effective Yokaten, or sharing, you need a certain number of things. So I sat down actually in a field in the middle of South Wales, trying to think about, well, actually what are the points? Because we do it automatically. We don't always necessarily think about the exact context that we're doing something and why it works. So I tried to analyse a little bit, and I came up with 4 key points, really. What do we need as a framework? Firstly, we need a network. The second, we need some sort of forum or opportunity. Another one is a mechanism or a standardised format. And then motivation and recognition. Why do people want to get involved in this type of activity? But also, we're looking for some qualities of those people that are involved as well. We want them to be collaborative type people. We don't want people who are working just on their own and sit in a corner and do something and get a good result. We need to be encouraging people to be open and sharing. We want them to have a willingness to learn as well. Even the experts, the people who design the motor car, they don't even know how to make the car. The experts are the people who several hundred times a day put those screws in or put that part onto the car. They're the ones who really know. And also, we need this open and lateral thinking. So we need to think about at the time as well, yeah, that's a good idea I saw over there, but how could I apply it over here? Actually, we don't have the same conditions, so you need some lateral thinking as well. So, as you can imagine, we have some tools of the trade. And we'll go through a couple of those. So the first one is about knowledge. So knowledge is a key requirement, we believe, for Kaizen. You actually need to know the process of what's going on. So you need to understand a little about the chemistry of a painting process if you're ever going to understand how to control that process. So one of the tools that we use is this Eco Handbook. And the Eco Handbook here has many detailed chapters within it, and they cover all of the processes that we currently find or commonly find within our factories. So there'll be a chapter on press, and pressing parts. There'll be one on welding, one on painting, one on assembly, one on quality control. All of those types of ideas will be represented in this book in some way. And it will give us the background and the key points. It will tell us about the way in which we should look at those processes and try to identify the critical items that we wish to control. So the key point to remember here, that actually education is critical. So actually we need to be teaching our members, whether that be the team member who's just come onto the line from maybe a job in McDonald's, for example. He's coming to work on our line. We need to teach that guy. But also we need to take people from universities as graduates and actually train them in these processes. They won't have seen these processes at all within their current life. I mentioned 2 other points in those 4 key points. The next one was network. So actually, within the global organisation, even if we don't count joint ventures and things like that, we have 51 manufacturing companies in 27 different countries. That's not in Europe, that's the globe. But when you start to add on the joint ventures and the other companies which are involved, for example, I think we've got 8 or 9 plants in China now. They're not represented within that 51 because they're all joint ventures. And we actually have those 9 manufacturing plants I mentioned before. So we tried to use this organisation on the right-hand side there. So you've got various levels. So you've got the global level. We've got the regional level, which is where I sit. Then there's the plant level. So the plant in this case could be Burniston, just up the road. But inside that plant, it's got other levels as well. It's got the group level. So, sorry, the group level, the shop level. So, for example, the paint shop or the plastic shop or the pressing shop. And then it's got the group level, so group leader who would have held this meeting that I started off this morning, he would have been giving the information. He's probably typically responsible for 20 odd members. And an engineering group manager may have 5 or 6 members as well, so he's having those same sorts of meetings within his area. And then there's a team. So a team leader, he's a working guy, and he's actually got 4 people typically working for him around him on the line, and he's supporting them building the car. So we've got all of that vertical organisation, but where we've got these sideways arrows as well, we have an opportunity to actually do sharing as well at the regional level, at the plant level, at the shop level. So we have all of those opportunities within the network. But within the network, you can't just rely on the network, you have to create a forum, you have to create an opportunity. So actually we have a global environmental conference. For example, each of the 5 regions will be invited to that. We'll share our information and our direction, our strategies or whatever. I'll come back and I'll then have a conference then with all of the production environmental people, and we'll explain that to all of the 9 plants, so that it will cascade down through the organisation. We also have another activity which we call shop-by-shop activity, and this is an idea that we had realistically in all areas of the business. This is engineering as well, not just the environmental area, where actually each of the shops will get together. So for example, we've got 4 big manufacturing plants which have a paint shop. So we'll put all of those 4 groups together, give them a leader, and actually they will share information that's specific to their particular processes. And again, they will link up with paint shops in America or paint shops in Japan. So, what are the key points? I think there are accessible multi-level network. You can have this network really at a group member level, you know, team member level, somebody who's actually doing the job, maybe applying the sealer in the paint shop, for example, or it could be the engineers. They have these opportunities at these different levels. And you should have regular and timely opportunities as well. And they should be minuted, they should be done in a very professional way as well. I then mentioned as the last point of the ideas, which is a mechanism and a standardised format. Even in Toyota Europe, actually at the last count, if I remember correctly, there was something like 50 plus languages represented in our office. Actually, in a big multinational company, you can have language barriers. It's inevitable. So one of the things that we try to do is keep it simple and make standardized formats so that people understand whereabouts on the page to look for certain information. And indeed, that's the sort of level of information that we will initially share. It's easy to read and write, but it's just a flavour of it. It's there to try and provide a hook, if you like. If the person's interested in taking up that Yokaten and doesn't recognise it's been done within their own organisation, they'll take it away and then they'll contact the right people to find out more information. And typically, how will they do that? They will call through the central office, they'll make a contact if they don't already have a network member that they can talk to. But the next thing they'll do is they'll plan a visit. And they'll do what we call the Genchi Genbutsu, to go and see. And they will actually go and have a look at that process and see what are items that they can pick up and take back to their own plants. And of course, behind that, we have booklets, we have intranet systems as well that we can use to share the information. So, simple format, giving the flavour, and it helps us avoid the language barrier as well. Next one is quite a difficult one. It's about motivation and recognition. How do you get people interested in doing this type of activity? Well, one thing that is quite important is that every member, whether he's a team member on the line to our president or actually Toyota-san himself in Japan, we are appraised. And we're appraised, and one of the competencies that we're appraised on is Kaizen. So it's built in. We have to be considering Kaizen and what are we doing to change and to try and improve our own situation. So there's a bit of a motivation there because that may motivate my salary or it may motivate my bonus. So everybody's quite switched on to that Kaizen, and certainly when it comes around to appraisal time, they're trying to desperately try to find some examples that they've done during this year to show to their boss. But also it's recognised and it's celebrated throughout a number of different events. For example, we do quality circles. And the quality circles will be done at a plant level, they'll be shared, and then there'll be a winner that's pulled out from that circle of activity, and then that will be brought up to the European level. Just a couple of weeks ago we had the Kaizen Convention in Europe, and big competition. All of the top guys from Toyota Europe would have been there with the presidents of the manufacturing plants. They would have been there, listened to and applauded, etc., made questions. In a presentation type format. Not quite a poster format that we were using yesterday, but actually physically with a small presentation in front of everybody. Winner from that, he'll be moved on to the global competition. Global competition's rather nice. They get the opportunity to go to Japan. And for a team member who's working on the production line, probably that's quite an interesting item, because he'll go to that. He'll have to make his presentation. Fortunately for the guys in the UK, it's in English, so the guys from Poland and Czech Republic, it's a little bit more difficult. But they'll go there and they'll endure in their few minutes of presentation, but they'll enjoy the rest of the conference, and they'll see everything else that's going on, and there'll be some fuss made of those people from the top guys in TMC, Toyota Motor Corporation. But also, it represents individuals, and it also represents groups. So you can have a class. It's a bit like the Oscars in a way. You can go there and win different types of awards based upon the class of the award. And the Kaizens can be in anything. They can be in safety, environment, quality, production, cost. Those are the normal sort of headings that we're looking for. But what we do find is the environment often crosses with others. So safety and environment, often you get the box ticked 2 times. Environment and cost, you often get the box ticked 2 times. Why is that? Basically, if you make an improvement in resource usage or waste reduction, you save money. The bottom line improves. Just like Mike Barry said yesterday about his 135 million in saving, actually this can be a very good driver of bottom line improvement. Of course, there is an issue here, and one is about collaboration versus competition. So how do you stop somebody having a good idea and then holding it back for the next conference or the next opportunity? So there is this issue there where we have to keep trying to promote people to be collaborative rather than just in competition. But don't overlook the competition element. People like to be winners. They do like to get the opportunity to present to the top management. So there's this balance there, and we try to promote the Olympic ideal a little bit, you know, that taking part is important as well as winning. And also there are many recognition channels. So internally we have things like certificates and awards, but we also use these things to increasingly now to actually say what we've done to the outside world. And for example, in the UK they've had a number of awards from people like Business in the Community, for example, for their activity, for environment, but also for sustainability as well. So what's the key point really? Important Toyota principle is Kaizen and Yokaten, so it's recognised by top management level. If they've got the commitment, they take the time out of their diaries to go and listen to some team members from Argentina to present something that they saved a few cents per car. That's a very, very powerful message to those individuals that what they're doing is actually collaborating and contributing to the total Toyota ideal. So some practical examples. Some of you may have seen some of these examples before, but one is about developing the specialist knowledge. So we were aware that TMC, Toyota Motor Corporation in Japan, had been starting up an energy savings team, and it had these 6 attitudes. Peter will know these wherever Peter sat there, and he'll be able to repeat all of them, I'm sure, and possibly with the Airbus name on them as well. But so we trained these activities by these ideas. So this is a similar to the pyramid that we've got on the handout sheets outside, the quick guides. So Melanie was involved in some of these, understanding some of these as well. So these are some of the activities that we will actually do. It's very detailed. We get right under the skin of the process. So the process will go into it and understand what are the key parameters that we need to be checking and monitoring. Often it's not just the key headline KPI that we've been used to using. Actually, we might need to look at some temperature on a particular pipe in a particular location. That's the critical one, not the other. So I have an embarrassing example. Embarrassing example is that for 15 years I walked up and down with several of my colleagues up and down a road. We walked past a chiller. Chiller is actually chilling water in a pit as a reservoir of cold water that's used within the process in the painting shop. As long as it was running okay. We didn't worry about it. But actually when we sent in these guys on their first training course to go and have a look at that system, we were immediately able to identify £20,000 of savings per year, just by controlling the temperature in a slightly different way. In other words, we were looking at the criteria we were looking at was that we were measuring at the wrong point. We didn't need to cool the water as much as we were doing. Actually, we could manage in a lot more appropriate way. We do benchmarking, but we try to go beyond simple benchmarking. Benchmarking is useful up to a point. Yes, we're better than they are, but that's not the point. Actually, what about the absolute level? Are you as good as you can be? So I'll give you an example. Actually, it takes a certain amount of energy to warm water from 20 degrees to 100 degrees. You can't change it. That's a physical constant. So that's what we call the minimum requirement, or Gentani. You can't beat that figure, but you want to get as damn close to it as possible. That's the target you're chasing, not some other plant somewhere else around the world. You need to be chasing the minimum requirement. So here, we're really developing a lot of skills into team members, production members and maintenance members to do this type of activity. It's not something the normal maintenance electrician or plumber or whatever would normally be doing. So we're educating people. They're becoming interested in their process and they start to contribute as well. So what we actually did was, instead of accepting just training from Japan and a team coming in, we decided that we'd develop our own teams within Europe. The two guys there on the left-hand side were trained as the trainers, the first guys that were actually certified to deliver this training outside of Japan. We then developed the EU-wide teams. You can see there the teams of Czech Republic, joint venture, so we're actually even helping Peugeot Citroën a little bit here as well, Turkey and the French plant. And as a final step, actually this entered this world, because as a final step we joined together with Cranfield, De Montfort, IES and Airbus, and we entered into a TSB funded project where IES really developed some commercial software which was inspired by our initial activity, and there are a number of people around the room who are quite aware of that. This is the famous project that's been called Therm. So this is the output, realistically, how we've started to even share that outside of Toyota. We also have some other practical examples of how we try to generate new knowledge and new ideas. So that we've got 2 model sustainable plants within Europe. And they're 2 of 5 global plants, and they're used to trial and perfect a range of different activities. So we're using these as really as true models. The 3 pillars we're looking at are improving our environmental performance, looking at CO2 reduction, including the use of renewable energy, and also we're making contributions to the natural environment around our sites as well. So you could say biodiversity, this type of item. 2 plants. Why 2 plants in Europe? That's a bit strange, isn't it? And we chose TM UK and TMMF. Actually, both plants I was involved with in the construction phase. However, they're 10 years apart in generation. So we've got a generation 1 plant and a generation 2 plant. The architecture, the process architecture, the way the buildings are linked together and what have you, completely different. The layouts look completely different. So there was a sea change in those 10 years. So what we wanted to do was, the older plant, TM UK, we wanted to challenge them to catch up and perform as well as the new type of plant. But then we said to TMMF, we don't want you to stand still, and for sure they didn't want TM UK to catch up either. So they have been trying to push the boundaries. They're trying to set new benchmarks within Europe. Actually, within the globe. Actually, what we've got here is 2 plants also that are focusing on different things. So because of the so we say the climate of incentives and taxation and what have you, TM UK have been leading largely on energy. and also on areas of waste as well. And TMMF have been really largely working on water. So actually, we've automatically got some interchange there because the information that we understand from TM UK can automatically be transposed to France, and the water information can be pulled back to the UK. Why did we choose those? Because those were the big challenges in those plants. It just fell like that, so we were able to make good use and exploit the benefits. We also do pilot projects within that sustainable plant item. And what we're trying to do there is learn by trying. I think I saw this somewhere on another slide yesterday, this idea of learn by trying. So the concept really is to make a step change. Now, what we've been discussing about, typically what people understand about Kaizen is it's continuous improvement, small step, small step, small step, small step. But as you saw at the beginning, actually the word continuous isn't realistically in that definition. Actually, it just says a change for the better. So we can characterise two changes. One is this continual type change, and the other one is take some opportunities to take a big step change. Those opportunities come around occasionally. Model change can be one. Or a piece of equipment which has been working in TM UK very well for 20 years is now coming to the end of its life. It's becoming unreliable. What do? Like for like? Or do we have a look at the new technologies that's arisen within the next 20 years? So there's these opportunities to do that. So what we're trying to do is really accelerate the continuous improvement. So the poster on the right-hand side, actually a poster that was shown to the King of Belgium, or the old King of Belgium, because he's just changed recently, and the Prime Ministers and the European Union people at an exhibition we held there, was an initial idea that was developed by my engineers in TME, but also engineers and production members in Toyota UK. And actually what we were trying to do was improve the conditions within the painting booth. We were trying to reduce the variations in temperature and humidity, really control that process really quite well. And actually we formed an alliance with the people in the plant, but also with a control company. We got a partner in, and we started to work together to develop that idea. And actually one of the issues was TM UK. Oh, this is a bit risky. We haven't got any money for this. 200,000 euros or something like that. No, that's not going to work. So what we did was we raised the budget and we seed funded it. So we took away the risk of the plant. Suddenly the plant started to get more interested. Oh, we could do something here and get something for free. Also, we had to really satisfy our customer. So if you imagine our customer is the person who receives the vehicle on the street, he wants good quality paint. He wants paint that's going to last for many years. It's going to have a nice finish, no marks on it and what have you. So we had to think quality, 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 quality all the way through this. So actually what we did was a trial just on one booth, but we always made it possible to step back. We could always press a button, cut out the new control system and immediately revert to the old control system should it work. Again, building confidence. So we were able to really say to the president of TM UK, there's no risk here. You know, you might have one or two cars which need to go for a recoat or something if everything goes wrong, but actually by doing it this way, we're really trying to control the risk. Actually, we'd predicted some results, and a happy coincidence or good fortune, however you want to say it, but the results were much better than we'd anticipated. And what happened? Instead of a reluctant TM UK saying, oh, where are we going to get the money to actually replicate this on the other booths, because there's 10 booths in the plant, there was no problem. They saw that this was going to give them a payback. They understood what the benefits were going to be to cost and to the environmental KPIs, and they snatched the idea away from us. Actually, we lost control of it as the centre, because they pulled it away, they implemented it, which was great because it enabled us then to start Yokatening it to the other plants as well. But what we found then, when we went to France, it doesn't work. It's not identical. The architecture's the same. The processes had changed in the 10 years. So we actually had to use the lateral thinking to get the system used on other plants. So actually the Yokaten is now being made in Europe. It's now being replicated in the US and in other regions as well. So very practical example of how we share the information. Additionally, actually, we would say that our partners, which were Honeywell, they've now started to develop their algorithms and process control systems to some of the other automotive companies and companies that run similar processes. So again, it's escaped out into the big wide world as well. Okay, so another item here is the Global Kaizen Awards. This was the European Kaizen. Sorry, you don't want to look at the detail particularly. Very, very simple idea. Some waste material which was actually used to make a product which hitherto we've been paying for. Yeah, a couple of €1,000 a year or whatever, but the thinking way was rewarded by this presentation going to Japan. Unfortunately, didn't win the global award, but the people actually got the opportunity to go there. So there was an internal competition at each plant. The winners are selected for the European level, as you can imagine. European winner is selected to go to the global conference. Final winner is made from regional finalists. But the important thing again, very high level attendance at the meeting. Senior managing officer is there to shake hands and have the photographic opportunity. And then the guys are whisked away for a couple of days of VIP tours related to the environment, but actually of interest, a little bit sightseeing if you like as well. So some reward for their activity. But importantly, no cash reward. It's not a suggestion scheme in a traditional European sense. Okay, so I guess it's time's come to summarise because the time's going on, but what I wanted to say really is that to promote this intercompany learning, you need the power of Kaizen, in our opinion, and also the concept of this Yokaten, as we would call it. And then we need those it's now escaped to 6 now, key points: knowledge, standardised process, the network, the forum, or the opportunity, the mechanism, the standardised format, and the motivation and recognition. You need all of those in strong measure, but also you need members who are passionate about it, who also have the tendency to be collaborative, not to be going like this, actually to be willing to share their ideas and their thoughts. And also the opposite way around as well, be willing to learn as well. There are many examples where people in the welding shop have learnt from something that's been going on within the assembly shop. A few years ago, that would have been seen as 2 different worlds. They're not 2 different worlds if you think laterally. And we want them to demonstrate that thinking, but whilst singing off the same hymn sheet. And of course, as we've already mentioned, the hymn sheet may be in several languages as well. Thank you very much.